Lesson 6, Layers. The ancient Indian system of well being, both body and mind, yoga, says that a person is as healthy and youthful as his or her spine. I don't know the veracity of the statement, but I can certainly say that the professional quality of your work is clearly defined on how you handle the layers in Photoshop. Layers are the basic bread and butter of Photoshop, without which nothing much could be done non destructively. There are several types of layers like image layer, adjustment layer, fill layer, type layer, and smart object layer. We will all be seeing these in great depth as we move on this course. The cardinal rule of Photoshop layers that it must be easily identifiable and your arrangement of layer must be flexible enough to make any changes to your work without doing the same task again. Without much theory, let's create a Photoshop file of dimension 500 into 500 pixels with a resolution of 100 pixels. The background is white. I go to File, New, or you can use the industry standard shortcut Control N or Command N on Mac, and this dialog box appears wherein you input the set values and click OK. Congratulations! You have now created your first layer. This layer is called the background layer and is also called a fixed layer. The reason it's called fixed layer is because this cannot be moved like using the move tool, and also indicated that this is locked as indicated by the lock icon here. If you try to move the layer, it gives this pop-out message asking if you want to convert it into a movable layer. Click cancel as we do not want it to do now. Let's create one more layer above this. To do this, click on the small rectangle icon with a plus on it, and it creates a transparent new layer. The keyboard shortcut is Ctrl Shift N or Command Shift N in Mac. This is the new layer, and you can see it's filled with a checkered pattern. If I turn off the eyeball or visibility of the background layer, this pattern is seen. This means that this layer is transparent. In Photoshop, the transparency of a layer is indicated by the gray checkered pattern in it. Let's draw a half triangle in this. Take the brush tool, and when you right click it inside the file, it gives the option of choosing another brush and also the size of the brush and its hardness in terms of percentage. Let's make it 100% hard. These are the foreground and background colors, and the default being black and white. Clicking on these squares pops up the color panel, and we can choose the color of the brush. Let's choose a red color. I'm now clicking a dot. Holding the shift key makes the brush to go into a straight line. Thus, I make a semi-rectangle. Go back to the layer panel and click the new layer icon here, and it gives another transparent layer. Let's choose the same brush but choose another color, say a vibrant blue. Make out another triangle of the other size. Now we have three layers: the background white layer, the half rectangle red layer, and the half rectangle blue layer. Let's rename the layers. Double click on the letters layer 1, and this becomes an editable text. Rename it red, and similarly do the same for layer 2 as blue. Choose the move key by tapping the letter V and click on the red layer. On your workspace, hold the shift key and move the red layer to your left. The red semi-rectangle moves, and do the same for blue until you get a rectangle made up of red and blue layers. The point here is, unless it is a locked layer, the other layers can be renamed and moved, and hence they are called floating layers. Let's delete these two layers one by one. First by clicking and dragging the red layer to the trash icon. The other way to delete the layer is just select the layer and hit the delete key in Windows or the backspace in Mac. Let's take another live example and see the other features that we can explore. This is a yellow flower with a greenish background. The purpose of this exercise is to pop up the yellow color of this flower and to convert the background into grayscale, meaning take away all the colors and have only the black, white, or in between colors of gray. To do this, go to Image, Adjustment, and choose Hue Saturation, which has a keyboard shortcut of Control U, Command U on Mac. Let me give you a spoiler. This is not the way we wish to do this change in this method. Once the Hue Saturation dialog pops up, your first job is to brighten up the yellows. So you can choose the yellow from the drop-down menu like so and crank up the saturation. And let's say OK for now, since this is not the way to do this. Now, if you want to change the brightness value of the yellow, you need to press Ctrl U or Command U in Mac. But Photoshop now takes the changes which you have already made and you cannot go back to the image from where you started it. I am pressing F12 or go to File, Revert, which has the shortcut command of F12 to revert to the original image. And this time we shall use an adjustment layer with which you could do these changes non-destructively, meaning you have absolute flexibility of choosing from where you want to start. Before creating an adjustment layer, it's a good idea to select the subject that you wish to differentiate, the flower and the background in this case. In this example, we need to separate the flower from the background. Over the years, Photoshop has done tremendous improvements in selection of a specific portion of an image, and there are several ways this can be achieved. We shall see the various methods of selections in a dedicated movie in future. Tap the W key and this chooses the selection family associated with the magic wand tool, hence the shortcut key W. And on the top, you will find the select subject button. Click it and give a few moments for Photoshop to select the subject, and sure enough, it does a pretty good job. With this selection on, click on the half white, half black icon of creating an adjustment layer and select Hue Saturation. As you could see, the selection is masked in this mask layer. To give you a quick logic to understand the black and white spaces in the mask, think of the statement. People hide black money and show the white money, don't they? That is, the portions in black are not affected by the changes and the white gets affected. Click on the Hue Saturation icon and this pops up the control window. We are sure that the color of this flower is yellow and hence we can either choose the yellow from the drop-down menu and crank up the saturation levels, or click on the hand icon here, and when you hover over the image, it's seen as an eyedropper, but once you click it, it becomes a hand icon and you can drag it to the right to increase the saturation or to the left to decrease the saturation. This hand tool is advantageous when you are not sure about the color, say whether it is violet or magenta or green or yellow and so on. And this hand tool chooses the place in which you have selected and takes the action that you choose to do. Let's crank up the values by 15 and sure enough the yellow color pops out. If you want to see the difference between the before and after, turn off the eyeball to see the difference in the adjustment layer you have made, like so. Before, after, before, after. Now we have done step 1 of popping up the color, and our second step is to desaturate the colors in the background. To do this, make a copy of this adjustment layer by clicking and dragging it to the new icon layer, or it has got a keyboard shortcut which I prefer, Ctrl J in Windows or Command J on Mac. We saw about the white and black spaces of the mask. The copy of this mask is still the same as below, And we want to do the exact opposite of this. That is, to hide the flower and reveal the background. There is a very simple keyboard shortcut to do this. Click on the mask icon and press Ctrl I for inverse or Command I, and the mask inverses, making us to affect the areas outside the flower in this case. When you click on the hue saturation, being a copy, it remembers the values we had input earlier. We shall reset this now, and we crank up the desaturation to 0. Sure enough, only the background gets desaturated. We have just started scratching the basics of layer and the adjustment layers. And with tons of layers in a complex image, this can be daunting, and a good housekeeping of renaming the layers helps you to ease up the workflow. As usual, please let me know if you have any doubts and I shall answer them. Please subscribe to this channel, click the bell icon, and share it with your friends. Thank you.